This is Protocol 1. I'm James Neilson-Watt. If you are successful but not fulfilled, you're running industrial age software on space age hardware. It's time for an upgrade. Don't settle.
Hey, everybody. Super excited to have my guest on today. His name is Adam Jablin. I've chatted with him before. I had an awesome episode. That was a few years ago. And then when I was launching this, I said, who do I want to have on my show? And funnily enough, I saw you on the screen at a Tony Robbins event when I was virtual. And I was like, dude, and I think I took a photo and sent it to you. And then I saw you in person at Date with Destiny recently. And then I decided to launch the show. And I was like, I'm going to hit up Adam. I'm going to get him on. So super excited to have you on.
I'm grateful to be here. Before we jumped on, we were just saying how happy we were to see each other. But I think it's also important to say in the show, brother, it's really good to see you. You look great. Everything, just grateful to be here.
Yeah, you too, brother. So what's the deal? What have you been up to lately? What's changed since I spoke to you last? What's new?
Look, it's funny how life takes you on this journey. And one of the themes in getting clean and sober, right? So this is 20 years ago, is there's really a surrender and a letting go process. There really is. You're letting go of the old life, the alcoholic and addict to be reborn. But James, it has been extremely interesting, even within the last 5 years, how many times I've had to really learn to let go and to trust the process. Especially in the last 5 years, both of us being entrepreneurs and fathers and in love and responsibilities and with this social media age and AI age. And it really did kick up some things that I don't like to admit, but at least it'll open dialogue for anyone that's listening, where there was really a chase energy of where am I doing next? What should I build next? Where am I going with this? So much information coming at once. I staying with the pack, and even that thought, am I staying with the pack? Well, okay, now all of a sudden that means I'm comparing. So there's a comparison going on. And that comparison, if you don't watch it really closely, can almost become a competitiveness. Oh, this person's doing this and this person's doing that, and I'm not building this. So what has really happened is there's been such a journey of letting go and not chasing and being at the right time at the right moment. All the things that we're taught in every religious and spiritual book, but actually makes more sense nowadays than it ever has. And the journey I've been on, letting go of the noise and the traffic and just the constant needing to be here, needing to get there, and being really, really happy with life the way it is.
You touched on something. You said, it's now needed more than ever, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. I would agree. And I'd ask you, though, do you think that awareness is because collectively we're realizing it's more needed now? Do you think it's because culture goes through cycles? Because kind of like in life, like if you haven't learned the lesson that God sent you, it's going to just keep coming back up again until you learn it. And it's just going to I've noticed it gets a bit harder until it's like, do you want to change? You know what I mean? So I wonder if there's that aspect. And then the third is, do you think that as you start to peel the layers off for yourself and you start to notice things, there's this, I guess the right word is serendipitousness of like, oh, I get it now. Because for me, and we'll talk about this after, but for me, like at Tony Robbins events, I'd like, oh man, I get it. And then I'd do it again. I was like, oh, I get it. And I've noticed over the last, 6 years of doing this, that there's a depth to knowledge that I hadn't really considered before. So when it comes to, like we're talking about the cultural shifts, we've got AI, we've got all these things going on. It's so easy to get caught up in stuff. What's your thought around it sort of being reflective of the fact that society hasn't learned it? And then also maybe that you and I are becoming more aware of that as we've had to go through that journey ourselves.
To all three things that you brought, your resounding answer would be yes. I think it's a combination. And I do think that even though you attain certain amount of knowledge, even with our knowledge, then you got to go a little bit deeper into maybe some slight mastery of it, if that's even possible. And if not mastery, at least a depth of wisdom of the how and the when and the where. So, what you're saying is on point because it's not from one angle, it's from every angle. And like you said, lessons will be repeated until learned. And I do believe God and the spirit and the universe and the field, whatever languaging people are comfortable with the non-physical, I think it will teach you from every aspect of your life, every single one. You can't just master it in one area, but not apply it in another. And so it is a shedding of a skin constantly, over and over and over, to really be able to live by these principles.
Yeah. Yeah. There's knowing and then there's doing. And then in doing, you
Yeah.
start to know some more. And then you realize how much you don't know. I think that the hardest person to talk to is somebody who has learned a little bit. And so I always try and, if I've learned a little bit, it's the point where you're the most excited, I think. And I always try and, like, I share the excitement to bring in more knowledge. And I try and be as conscious as possible of the fact that I don't know. And so that probably anything I say is not going to be completely the correct story, especially if you're talking to somebody who knows, who's experienced and has done more. Kids are a good example of this. My kids will come up to me and say, Dad, I'm better at you than doing this. And I'm like, are you? And they're like, yep. And then I have to show them. And it's like, he's just learned to run fast. So he thinks he's faster than me. You know what I mean? And I think that's endearing in a child, but as an adult, it's an issue. And I think that these days we are being rewarded for the narcissistic, like, I know everything, I'm right, because I can find someone on the internet to agree with me, that I put my opinions out and I'm unwilling to hear that maybe I've made it up, I'm misinformed, etc. Because we can always find our little echo chamber a lot easier these days with social media, you know?
100%. And by the way, I also think the healthiest people that I know, the healthiest people are the ones that are willing to say, I was wrong, or I have more information now, or allow me to change my original thought. That's healthy. To me, that's healthy. But to stay stuck in one mindset, and then you actually learn that mindset or that train of thought wasn't serving you, but what you do instead of changing your mind, which is difficult for people, is that you lock down harder on the original idea. That's being very naive.
A refinement for me from some of the work that I've done with Tony is, with the triad and state and everything, physiology, focus, language being the third, what you're saying. Now, I always took that as literally what I'm saying. And it wasn't until recently I was like, it's like what I'm saying inside as well. The meaning that I'm giving things. When I see something happen, I'm like, that is this. This means that. And when that clicked for me, I went, wow, my experience of life is purely the meaning that I'm giving everything as I look around. That sign, if I've had an experience and signs fall over and hit people, then the meaning for me is danger when I see the sign. And so I get anxious. And if, people smile and that means this, then I have a meaning. And I looked back through my life and I said, well, where was the times where I had given meaning to things that didn't serve me? And I've hung on to that meaning, even when I now know, of course, memories are horrible storage containers. They distort, they delete, they change. And so recently, a big epiphany for me was around, definitely since we last spoke, was around meaning and the meaning I give things. And now I'm really sitting in the space of I'm giving everything a meaning that's going to serve me. And so if I'm noticing a resistance in something, I'm then going, what meaning am I giving that? That is meaning that I'm having a visceral response in an unhelpful way. Like, I don't call it necessarily pain or whatever, but it's suffering because it's not serving me. But it's not, it's like some pains are good. Sometimes you need a kick in the ass. Sometimes I need to give it the meaning of like, I didn't do good there, right? So I must do better. Other times I'm fancifying and creating suffering out of nothing. And so I've been very conscious of how I'm showing up to myself with the meaning I give things, especially as I've added more things on. Like since we spoke, I've sold everything. We travel full time. I've got 2 kids now. I think I only had 1 at the time when I spoke to you last. I've got a couple more businesses. We're doing a few more things. And so there's more things that can come in and pierce the armor, so to speak. And so it's really important that I'm holding that frame around meaning and the meaning that I give things.
You sound healthy, James. I mean, that to be able to give something the space and detach a little bit and to realize even the simple thing that you said, I see somebody smiling and I give that a meaning. Just to be able to become that neutral and realize that this mechanism is running your life. And it's all the stories that are, and don't get me wrong, it's not that we're always wrong. I mean, I don't want to make it seem as if every single thing that we pick up on intuitively or even just physically, even just is wrong. But the idea that we start creating a story from our old filters is, I actually believe that it takes work to get to that place. I don't think that unless there's some massive spiritual awakening, an aha moment for somebody, a bright light experience in which they really are disassociated from who they once were to who they are now. I think it takes work to untrain your personality and allow some space for some different ideas to be planted in there.
I can see it forming in my kids. How do you have kids, Adam?
I do. I have a 20-year-old daughter who's at Indiana University, and I have a 16-year-old son that's a sophomore in high school.
So mine are 7 and 5, different seasons, different blessings, different struggles. I'm seeing exactly what you were saying form right now with them. It's like identity is forming. What do I think? What do I believe? What do I know? And I'm seeing that in them. And I'm also seeing them try and grab onto that. So my youngest he's suddenly gone through a real difficult period. And then there's been like a developmental shift. And suddenly he's this little angel. And he's very present. He's very loving. And I can see that there was a struggle going on within him that seems to have resolved. And now he's in this period of like the blessing after the struggle. And then he'll go through another one. We all do. But it's interesting. He is trying to go, what am I? What could I be? This is my perception, right? So do I want to think this because my brother does, or I saw or heard this thing? Is that what it is? And then my 7-year-old has sort of started to form some of that. So he's got his opinions, and he'll tell you things, and he will believe things, and he'll say things. And it's interesting because I think we are aware of this as adults looking at children. And then we just think that, I don't know about you, but like for me, it's like you hit a certain age and you just think, you stop thinking about certain things and you sort of go, it's over now. And I'm kind of set. And what I've observed with now working with so many people, it's like we're just grown children. We just seem to have our stuff together. So it's harder sometimes to spot that the same things are going on. Who am I? What meaning am I giving things? What's my identity? I'm struggling with thoughts. I'm just taller, hairier, but I'm a child figuring things out. And so I can look at my kids and I can say, well, I'm more intelligent. I know more. I'm more present. I'm more aware, right? So I can sort of be this fatherly figure to them and raise them out. And this is where I started to find a bit of my faith, was this a realization of like, what if there was somebody way smarter than me who had the same perspective of me being childlike as I do my kids, and me trying to figure things out as my kids do? And I was like, whoa, what does that mean? And so that for me has been my sort of faith journey up until here. But point of my story being, I think that we forget that we are in this process of still figuring ourselves out. And the moment we say that we are set, like I know this, and we lose the curiosity to what else there could be, we really stagnate in terms of what our potential is. And they say, hell is meeting the version of yourself that you could have been. And that hit me because I'm like, man, I could have been the alcoholic, really struggling. That's a lot of my family. I could have been the rock star with 7 ex-wives. I could have been somebody else. And I'm like, why am I me? And am I on my path? What decisions am I making? And how am I learning from my decisions to kind of carve my path forward? And so it's kind of going full circle for me, looking at my kids, I'm going, wow, I can so influence this with how I show up. So it's on me to show up for me so I can show up for my kids. And this kind of encompassed this realization, like we have to have responsibility, I think, if we want to find ourselves. Talk me through your past, how you see things now from your present, the work you do, and the responsibility that you had to take, or the ownership that you had to take for yourself to make shifts. Because I want to have the audience kind of collect these thoughts and go, what can I do in myself with whatever I'm working on or struggling with or trying to get to, with self-accountability, if you believe that, right? But self-accountability, so it's like, it's me, I'm responsible for my situation, so therefore I can change it. Because that's what I've observed in myself. Once I started to really understand that and give that the meaning, like I've got that choice, it gave me power. Whereas a lot of us are disempowered to things that are happening. You know what I mean?
Very much. Well, by the way, James, just let me say this to you if you don't mind, since I'm the one that's old, I'm older with grayer hair and I'm 50 and I have older kids. Let me say, your kids are blessed to have you as a father, because to be able to give that kind of space and to give that kind of awareness, your kids are just blessed. to have that. And that's something you should take to heart. And I don't want to make my answer too long-winded or make it all about my story, but to address the three things that you said as clearly as I can. I was a kid really from the 80s that was highly, highly influenced by society and by culture and by movies and by music and by popularity and by what was cool. And so, at that time, it was Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and being a man was having big muscles and being able to grit it out and tough it out. Also, success was Gordon Gekko from Wall Street. And it was just a very big time. Everything was very big. Music was big. Hair bands of the 80s, Poison and Motley Crue. Everything was just loud and big. I would be giving a disservice to say that culture was not a big part of my upbringing, as well as obviously the values and the virtues that were given by my mom and dad. But like most people, at least back then, now there seems to be a lot more independent, unless you look at social media. I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to stand out in my own way. But I certainly wanted to be a part of. I was the heavy kid for many years. I was the fat kid and moved down to Boca Raton, Florida from New Jersey, where you could have your shirt off every day and be in the pool and be by the beach. And I hate it. And I just remember making a decision. My mom stopped taking McDonald's every day for my 6-piece chicken McNugget, large fry, and large Coke, and started buying me Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness, and got my first Joe Weider weight set. It wasn't like today with apps and all the different varieties. It wasn't keto and vegan. These were just basic principles: egg whites and oatmeal and chicken and an apple. In 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to the best built kid in the class. I went from kids asking me, "Yo, Adam, how many Oreos did you eat last night?" Poking fun of me. They're like, "Hey, man, how much can you bench press?" And the girls liked me. So I really learned at my core that the outside matters way more than the inside, because the inside was still that insecure, people-pleasing, want to be included kid, even though the outside was showing this courageous, charismatic, strong guy. And with the muscles and with the coordination, I was able to hang out with the older kids and play with the older kids. And older kids were just cooler back then. They had more permission and they got cars quicker than we did. And they were able to stay out later than we were. And they knew what was more trendy and more in the know than we were. They were introducing us to new ideas and new music, and they were experimenting with alcohol and drugs. And it wasn't peer pressure. You know what I mean? I was with my guys, I was with my buddies, and they passed it and I drank it, and it fixed something inside of me that I did not know was broken. It fixed it, James. Whatever that anxiety was, whatever that tension was, whatever that insecurity was, whatever that worry was, it fixed it. And I chased that as fast and as hard as I could. I went to Arizona State University because it was the #1 party school in Playboy and Penthouse magazine, which it was, and dominated there. And everything went right into business, into a family business. And we were the largest lace manufacturers in the world. And it was an empire. And I had to live up to my father and my grandfather's stature. But it was just all of these outside pressures of always trying to be something, to be somebody. And that really shifted when I was 30 years old and I had to get clean and sober. When alcohol and drugs took its toll, I crossed that invisible line that many can't see, from a bad habit to an unhealthy dependency to a true alcoholic and addict. And I went on this spiritual journey that started in a rehab center and continued in a 12-step community that I'm still belong to for years. And it rewired I started doing the inside work. I started doing the things for my soul. And then to catch you up to, like you were saying, what's going on now, the last 5 years when I had to start my own thing, when we sold the family business and I knew I was here for a higher calling to help people, I started entering the entrepreneurial world. And it's been the wildest ride, but it came with so many lessons, and lessons that were very difficult for me personally to figure out, because things happen very fast in this day and age. And really, my jam, my love of life is helping people. That's that just fills my soul more than anything. But yet nowadays, to find the people that you want to help, you have to go into these worlds and market yourself. And so I just love to help people, but you also now have to show yourself as something to find the people that you want to help. And this became this ongoing roller coaster of a ride. And then I was brought into Tony's world and I learned all the personal development. I had a lot of the God development, and the personal development started to override a little bit of the God development. And I thought everything was on me and I am the voice and I am the one and I put everything on my shoulders and nothing on God's shoulders. And that crushed me like no other, because I would constantly feel less than and constantly feel like a failure. And unfortunately, no matter how good my work was and how many people I was helping, I got into this comparison game because I saw a world that was so big. I saw a world that was a vision that was so big. And I was comparing myself to people that were 30, 40 years ahead of me. And where I'm at, what happened was I had to go back into the hero's journey and surrender from a completely different place. Really surrender an identity that didn't surrender this guy. I had to surrender my Superman skin, that I'm here to save everybody, that I'm here to help everybody, that that people won't know I love them unless I'm responsible for them. People will not know how much I care for them unless I overextend myself to no end, not necessarily even understanding my value, meaning I always wanted a good day's work for a good day's pay, not realizing that my work was way higher than my pay. And I'm learning all of this in my late 40s from being the #1 lace manufacturer. And it all came down to one word, James, which was trust. I stopped trusting the process. I stopped trusting in God. I stopped trusting that things are working for me and not to me. I stopped trusting even some people that I love the most because I felt like there was always an angle. There was always an angle for more and more and more. I stopped trusting. And that's a scary place to be. When you stop trusting the Almighty, when you stop trusting the people you love the most, when you stop trusting even yourself at times, because it's an entrepreneurial journey. You can't hit home runs all the time. You can't hit grand slams all the time. You're going to strike out. You're going to fall on your face. And the losses were becoming bigger than the wins to me. I would focus on the loss and not the win. And it's probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, ever. Painful as it was, because I had to surrender from a deeper place within and realize all that stuff that we hear all the time and that you and I have been around, it's true. It is all happening for us. It's not happening to us. And there is a grace and a power and invisible forces that are guiding us and taking care of us. But your job, it's a job, believe it or not, is to trust. And I hope people don't have to go through the painful, emotional, not real reality hardships, not cancer, not living in a hospital, not losing a child. I mean, that's real. But the emotional hardships that I went through to realize that everything's going to be okay. And there's a divine order to things. There's a divine order. And sometimes, no matter how hard you work and no matter how good you are, there's a time, Michael Jordan was the greatest player in the league but for 7 years, he couldn't get over the top. He couldn't win the championship. It was like, I want to rush the process. That's just that's that voice, that ego, right? Sometimes there's a divine order to things. So when it actually happens, you're really, really good. You're good at your craft. You're good with yourself. You're good with God. You're good with the people you love. And that's, since we've spoken last, to sum it up, that's what I've gone through.
You said something that I've been becoming more and more aware of, is that things take time. It's for me, it's an amount of time that I'm not necessarily going to be cognizant of, but it's going to take an amount of time. And that's, I think, the grace aspect of it. And if you act as if you can rush it to get there faster, you're going to get there slower because you're not considering that the time is almost predetermined. You just don't know how much time that's going to be. A good example of this is like if I'm flying to America, I'm in Japan right now. If I'm flying to America, it's going to take an amount of time. Some of that is me going fast in a plane, physically fast, but it feels slow. Some of it is it feels fast, but I'm physically going slow, rushing through an airport. There's nothing that I can do that's actually going to speed that up because I've just got to get to the airport, get on the plane, and the plane's going to get there. But I can feel like I'm doing things to speed it up, but I'm really kind of stressing out for no reason because it's just going to take an amount of time. I think I don't know if this was what they said or somebody said this, but the Wright brothers with getting us into airplanes, right? They believed that it was going to take 1,000 years or whatever for humans to fly. And they did it like in the next year or something. And it's because they stopped worrying about trying to make it happen in terms of shortening the time of getting there. And they instead focused on just solving the next problem because it's going to take an amount of time. That's the divine order. And I've found that the more I accept that things are going to take an amount of time, it'll be harder or longer if I'm trying to speed that up. But if I just focus right in on what's the right next thing that I need to be doing in relation to this, who's the person that I need to talk to, I start to experience the grace in that, the things are happening for me, in that I'm supposed to go through this. This is not supposed to go really well. Certain things are. Like there's certain things in my life that went really well. There's certain things in your life that went really well. And they might be the opposite for us. So what went really well for you is not supposed to go really well for me because my story is supposed to be different so that I can have a different impact at a different stage than you. And yours is different. But if I compare, like we spoke about before, then I think that mine should be like yours. But I don't understand that we're on a different path. B, we're in a different season of our life. C, we're having a different experience. D, we're different people. Like there's layers to this. And the most basic thing for the listeners to get is like, if you look at somebody who has, a great relationship or great relationship with their kids or their wife or money or a great body, and you compare and say, I want that, you've got to really know who you're willing to become to have that, because she might have a great relationship with their kids because they don't go out on Friday nights. They don't work past 5. They don't, go golfing on the weekend. They put that time into their kids and their wife. And if that's not something that you want to shift, then you will always be in a situation of liking the idea of it, but being unwilling to give up the things that you have or release those things to then get that thing. And the most obvious example for me is people wanting more money or a better business, but not being willing to do the 16 hours and the eating shit and doing the stuff that's required to build something. They want to keep all the Netflix and the 3 fantasy leagues and the whatever else without saying, maybe if I really wanted it, I would see it as more than giving up these things. And I would instead go, good, I get to dissolve those and grow this. Or as Gary Vee would say, it's like, if you're happy, shut up. Like, enjoy your thing, live your life, do that thing. Stop looking at the other stuff and saying, oh, I want it, because maybe you don't, because we tend to do the things we value. And I think there's a power in going, what do I need to shift? And then what do I need to accept and go, you know what? I loved this. So for me, my friends were partying and going out and doing lots of stuff. And I did plenty of parties, but I wasn't going out very much because I was studying and I was working hard. And that has resulted in me being able to have the life that I've got now. And there's things that I've gained that I enjoy, and there's things that I haven't. So maybe I don't have as many close friends as they do. Maybe they're friendships that I don't want, but maybe they are. I don't know. I'm in my own journey. So you said it earlier. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. I think when we are acting on purpose, we tend to find more purpose too. Like you talked sort of almost about mission and being connected to something and being drawn by it. I see a lot of people struggling with sort of push energy, and I describe it as, we've all got a cart full of shit that we've got to get up this hill. Now I can be behind it and it stinks and it falls on me and it's hard, or I can be in front of it and I can pull it. The only difference is whether the work is a job or it's a mission. And so if I can find a mission in what I'm doing, no matter how mundane, then I can find purpose in it, meaning, ultimately, positive meaning. Then suddenly I'm out of the way of that thing behind me. Suddenly vacuuming is like I'm on mission right now. There's meaning behind this. Playing with my kids, doing my work, having a podcast. If it's connected to something bigger than me so that I can see that I am becoming something for someone or for myself or whatever I'm growing, then we're in the higher of the human needs. And I've noticed myself, I'm really pulled more than that sort of push energy. And it sounds like you found that in what you were doing, but you had went through a phase of pushing it to now sort of pulling it. Do you resonate?
100%. You got it. You nailed it. It's funny when you were talking right now, I was recalling, I was listening, I was present, but you triggered a memory of something I did not that long ago with a client, and he has very big goals and very big dreams, and he's on his way. And we're talking about, James, very big numbers and impact. And I said, okay, well, and again, like all of us, wants it now, wants it yesterday. And I said, okay, well, here's the deal. How's this? What you're saying, that's like a 20-year goal, right? He's like, yeah. What about, how's this for a deal? You can wake up tomorrow, right? This is a real deal. You can wake up tomorrow and you have it all. It's in 10 years. Just what you want in 20 years, I'm going to give it to you even in 10 years, but I'm going to give it all to you tomorrow. But here's the deal. You don't just get all the things. You wake up and your son is 10 years older. You missed all that time. You wake up tomorrow, but you missed that. And you missed those 10 years with your wife. And you missed, I don't know if your parents are still alive in 10 years. So you get everything you wanted in a rush, but time doesn't stop. You just wake up and you have it all tomorrow. I'm like, would you take the deal? Will you take the deal? God's going to say yes if you want it. He's like, fuck no. I'm like, exactly. He's like, because there's something about enjoying this journey. There's something about you want to rush to get your goals. You want that faster, but you don't want your son to age any faster. You don't want your parents to die any faster. You don't get to pick and choose. You're not the creator. You don't go, I want this tomorrow, but my son gets to still age one day at a time. No, it's going to be a golden rule for everything, just the way it is right now. And so, very clearly, he's like, no, I'm not taking that deal. I'm like, exactly. So you may as well just enjoy the ride.
Exactly. You set the goals, I think, for who you want to become, and that the result is a consequence of who you became in the journey, right? Like, my goal is I want to head in this direction because I will obviously like the outcome if I get it, but that's not enough. I will like the person that I'm going to become with the challenges that I'm going to have to overcome, that the person I'm going to have to be, etc., who I'm going to have to grow into. Like, that for me is what I'm realizing that it's about. I'm setting that as a destination because of who I'm going to have to become to get it. And enjoying the process is where the winning comes, because you're going to get there. It's like I used to want a Rolex, and then I got one and it was cool for a while. And then I'm like, now it's a pain in the ass. I don't want to take it anywhere. I don't want to get robbed. So I wear a fake one if I go out. It's just a model of the one that I've already got, because then I don't care if I bang it. And if someone was to rob us, I'm like, yeah, have it, man. It's like $100. Because I know that for me, it was less about, I realized it was more about, ticked it off. I got to that point, that thing, but it ultimately didn't matter. Who I had to become to get to that was more of the reward than the thing. And so I've started to do that with myself now, is setting goals and then working towards it and going, wow, I could do that. And then just not. So it's like, if I like a watch or like, we travel, I can't have a car, but I'm looking at, let's say Tesla's coming out with the robo-taxi. And I'm, oh man, that'd be so cool to have one. Tesla's coming out with the Roadster. And I'm like, that'd be amazing, because I've had that on my list for years. And I'm going to work towards this position where I could go and get it. And then I'm going to, that's so cool. And then I'm just not going to get it, because I'm playing the game with myself, because there's a human part to that. Like, the flesh wants things, but the spirit needs things. And so the things the spirit needs is not what the flesh wants. So I'm going to focus on what the spirit needs, growth, contribution. And I'm going to bait the flesh with some stuff, because that is still a motivator. Because if I don't take care of the flesh, then I'm not going to be able to achieve what the spirit wants. Like, these are some realizations that I've had, that it ties into what we talked about mission. Like, we built a platform called LearnSpark. I'm hyped on it at the moment. I'm basically talking about it every episode. I made it for our kids and our educator and nanny to be able to homeschool our kids while we traveled. Then friends started using it, and I was like, this is kind of cool. Talked to some people, and they said, there's a big opportunity here. You should go and raise some capital. I said, I'm afraid to do that. I'm used to bootstrapping and like going dirty and selling high ticket stuff and make money and then spend that money. Now I've fully matured in this process. I'm in the process of looking to raise 5 mil, and we're going to blow this thing up. And I'm partnered with groups in Nepal and India who save girls from sex trafficking. And they use our platform as their education tool for their tutors to be able to provide a better education, keep these kids more engaged, etc. And I've realized, I was like, I must now get a lot of clients, because that adds validity so that I can go and get a whole lot of charities because that adds validity to get customers, to get money, to get like, it becomes the cycle. And I realized that that's what it's about. Like wanting for more money for a thing is never going to get me anywhere. It has to be something more. And I think it can just start with your customer or your client. Like I want to deliver the most value to them. I want to serve them. And then, but if you can extend it beyond that, where I'm creating something for my family, my community, and people outside of that, I think that's where it really starts to juice up. Like you got to meet your needs. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself, because there's too many martyrs who try and save everyone and they end up not, because they didn't even take care of themselves. But I think when you've secured that, and now you've secured your family, and then you're securing your local community, now your clients, it's like, how else can you contribute? And I think we need to work from like, create a stable place of that. And that's what I've built. And now I'm super juiced about this, that I'm like, okay, how do we help 100,000 kids? What has to happen for that to happen? Well, damn, I got to talk to some people. I got to meet some people. They've got to trust me. I've got to make sure this shit delivers. Like it's another level of operation that inherently will become more successful as commercial enterprise, because it's being impact led. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not going to do it in a way that is not commercially viable. But with the energy that's being brought to it, makes it more than just how do I make money with this, because it's really caring about the consumer, because it has to work for charities with at-risk kids. Sally, middle class, with her homeschooling kid, can move on to something else. There's less of like it has to work, other than I need to be a good, business owner. But when it's for a charity with kids with real shit going on, I'm like, it's got to work. Do you get what I'm saying? That's been
Yeah, I'm following you. I'm following you step by step here, James. You can, and of course I get where you're going. I'm proud of you too. That's amazing what you're doing. That's amazing what you're doing. And I tip my hat to you, because I think you unlocked some secrets of really the universe and of business in this journey you went on. It's like you just explained, it's all feeding each other. And also that thing is going to feed you. It's like everything that you've built and are building is a win-win. And you answered the call, right? Somebody challenged you and said, this could be bigger. And you said, well, I don't really like doing that. I don't like raising money. I like going big sales tickets. That's my gig. But even if there was a refusal to the call at first, you answered it. And then just like the hero's journey, and then you found the right allies and the right mentors, and you picked up new skills and new ideas and new beliefs. And, if you haven't already slayed the dragon, you will slay the dragon, and you return home the hero, and then you pass. Yeah, and then you pass that knowledge on, and it's the most beautiful story in the world. And what really, to be aligned with the people that you've met in Nepal that are helping those girls, I mean, I really tip my hat to you. Fantastic work.
What do you think people can do to sort of find a bit more of their mission? Like if we're talking about all these exciting things and whatnot, because we're at a season where we might have been through those things ourselves. And so it can sound a bit, it's like the classic, the rich guy says that, success is, it's all in the mind. And then you're like, oh, yeah, buddy. It's because you know the secrets of stock trading. And then you get there and you go, oh, shit, it is all in the mind. And then you just become that same dude who's just saying it's all in the mind. And you repeat the cycle. What's some practical things do you think for people who are in the dark, they're stuck in it, to find that thing that you found for yourself? It'll be different for them, of course. The thing that maybe I found for myself, where it's skipped us through to that next, like we have stuff coming up, Adam, in our life. Like that's inevitable. There's always going to be pain, but it's learning through each of those experiences that you have resilience, you have resourcefulness, that it will get better, that, things will work out. But I think when we're earlier in that, we maybe haven't had so many of those full circle experiences to go, you know what, it does get better, and I can figure this out, and it is always good on the other side. When they're stuck, what would you say? What advice would you give? What perspective maybe to help them find something, to find that light?
When they're stuck, I think is the greatest time to find it, because that being stuck is actually something that's going on in the mind. You're here for something bigger. You're being called to something bigger, but you just can't seem to find it. And you can't seem to match the frequency, if you want to use that word energetically. You can't seem to get that clarity and that vision, right? And sometimes you're not supposed to get the clarity and the vision. And I think what happens, it's very cliche and it's very real, but I like to flip it on its head for people. Is a lot of people will go, well, find the thing that caused you the most pain that you came out of, because that's what you could help people with. And obviously that's true, right? Having said that though, the flip side that many people, they still feel stuck is if you could focus on the joy that you're feeling from the solution, not the pain that you were in, but actually focus on the joy that you're in right now and want to share that. That's what people are looking for. They're not looking for somebody that can identify with the pain. That's everywhere. They're looking for the person that found the joy on the way out, right? So when you can't find your calling, when you can't find your mission, don't constantly focus on your own story, your own self, what hurt you, what you came. Be like, what's actually making you happy right now? I have a client, he just started a men's group. I'm really, really proud of him because it took off like that. And his thing was, he's helping Christian men, by the way, but that's his thing. He almost got divorced and get back together with their wives. Through their faith, get back together with their wives and become a better husband. That's his mission and that's his purpose. But he found that mission and purpose not really just through all the pain and suffering that he went through when they were separated, but when they got back together, how he felt as a better man, as a better husband, as a better father. He's like this. And when you focus on that, you have the solution. You have the you know Seinfeld from back in the day, the show Seinfeld? Popular, you know what I mean? And Larry David with Curb Your Enthusiasm. But there's a really great story to it because sometimes things don't always have to be focused on pain, suffering, and then the reward of how you get somebody out of that, which is a basic model. But he was doing stand-up and doing stand-up and doing stand-up and killing it, but like nothing was really coming to him. Finally, NBC offered him a show and he like wasn't even taking it that serious. And he goes on a walk with his buddy Larry David, and they're like shitting around. They're a couple of guys, you and I, just schmoozing around, or they're around a ridiculous store and they're making fun of stuff, and they're just being themselves. And his buddy goes, why don't we make a show about this, right? And he's like, what? He's like, just a couple of guys just talking like comedians, right? And that's where it got famous for a show about nothing. But what it is when you're happy, when you're actually just in the moment, those ideas will come. When you're seeking and searching and self-exploring and ripping yourself out from the inside and journaling, that's actually sometimes not when your greatest ideas come. It's just more self-discovery, more self-examination, to the point that sometimes all this self can become as narcissistic as it is. You know what I mean? It's like, how much do you need to fucking know about yourself? Do you know what I mean? Like at a certain point, it's like, where's the joy? And that's why I like to flip it with certain people, many people that I work with, and anyone that's listening, which is be in a happy time. For some reason, you're just really content and you're really peaceful and you're just having a good time, and things will just start to percolate. Ideas will start to percolate. And then it's your duty to not dismiss them, to just go, oh, well, that was a good idea. You know what I mean? Because those ideas are out there in the ether. They're in the field. And if you don't do it, somebody will. And then you're going to see it and be like, I had that idea, right? Like, it's out there. It's not yours. It's your job to have the courage to go, I'm going to try. I'm going to try.
I like that you said that it's not your
purpose,
idea. Sorry, Adam, it's not your idea. It's like it's there being revealed to people in passing directly. And then it's up to us to embrace it and go, thank you. I'm going to give that my best go. And so are they. And I guess you could imagine it as people are pulling on it to different degrees, but it's how hard you're willing to go after it that it becomes yours, because we've all thought about, Uber's a good example. We've all thought about, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I could just like press a button and a dude arrives in a car and takes me somewhere? People probably had millions of people had that idea. Some of them entertained the idea. Some of them drew pictures of it. Some of them did a bit more. Some of them pulled on it. But it was one dude or a group of dudes that pulled on it and pulled on it and pulled on it until it became their thing. And then everyone else said, that's cool. Let me make copycats of that. And I like that because it's true. I think we get stuck. I know that I've got stuck not wanting to share an idea or not wanting to go after something, or because I'm afraid of it being taken or lost or dropped. And then when I realized that the more I talk about it, the more it becomes my thing because I'm owning it. I'm taking more action towards it until I either take all of it or I take a piece of it. And there's other pieces to go around because we're all different, but it's kind of like I'm grabbing some of that and going, great, this is now mine because I've given it enough that can become mine. Yeah, I like that idea.
Right? It's a great story. And I'm pretty sure I have the artist right. It's either Michael Jackson to Prince or it was Prince to Michael Jackson. But I'm 99.9% sure that I'm going to get this story right and accurate. That it was Michael Jackson that said it and not Prince. But Michael Jackson was recording these songs, and like his producer was like, why are you like we have enough. Why are you still going? And he was like, because if I don't make this song, Prince will. Right? They had like a light competition for a while there, right? Meaning that he knew that song was not, that it was in the ether. And he knew that Prince was tapped into the same frequency, the same magical place where the glory, where the music spouts out. He knew they were having a little rivalry. And he's like, if I don't record this song, Prince will. Now, obviously, Prince doesn't have the song and the same lyrics and the same, but he knew that the idea was there. You know, and there's something beautiful to that we can't all just take this full ownership, like we're the creator. You know, these are blessings being bestowed upon us, and our job is to have the courage to go for it. And that could be the scariest part. It really, really can, to say, I'm going to go for it.
Even just logically, there's a timing thing. If Prince made a song and it captured the attention, then Michael's song wouldn't have landed in the same place because the audience would have been, you know, satisfied to an extent or whatever. It's a like logically there's a timing thing, and then, you know, energetically as well, it's holding at that attention. And yeah, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
It happened, by the way, in the 90s too. Like, I don't know why these ideas are popping up, James. I honestly, I don't want to take the podcast to a weird direction. But there was a time where like Westerns came back and two different studios came out. One was called Tombstone. And then like, honestly, like a couple of weeks later, and they were both working on it at the same time, Kevin Costner came out with Wyatt Earp, both stories about Wyatt Earp. Tombstone came out and crushed it. And even though Wyatt Earp is a phenomenal movie, it couldn't live up to that. Tombstone already just came out and said the story, but it wasn't Kurt Russell's and it wasn't Kevin Costner's. It was there. It was time for this story to come out, and whoever was going to hit it first was going to win. It just was the natural order of life, but they don't get to claim that it's their story. It actually was somebody's life. And we see this time and time again. You know, if you're feeling an idea percolate, quote unquote, going back to, hey, Adam, what would James and Adam say for somebody to find their purpose? If you're feeling an idea percolate, grab it and run with it. Grab it. Don't diminish it. Don't belittle yourself. Don't think it's silly, because a year from now, when you see someone that did it, you're really going to start getting negative and pessimistic and, you know, coulda, shoulda, wouldas.
And don't marry the how. That's been super powerful in my life. A constant theme coming back up is don't be attached to how you're going to get somewhere, and understand that all things can be connected if you want them to be. If you're open to them being a part of the journey, then it is a part of the journey. An example being like, dude, I'm a chiropractor. That was my identity. I graduated as a chiropractor in 2013. I ran a couple clinics, did it for almost 10 years. And now I've got a software and I have like property businesses and like random stuff and I'm in Japan right now. You know, things are going to move. Your job is to find the meaning in it, connect the dots and use them to serve the ultimate goal, which is who am I going to become on this journey? And so you said it right. It's like grab hold of it, because you don't know if it's the right path, but it will be the wrong path if you decide it's the wrong path. That's what I've realized. Like there's this idea of like, well, do I do this or do I do this? And I don't want to make the wrong decision. I'm like, the fact that you think there is a wrong decision is the wrong decision. You need to go down both and then figure out which one is making sense and feel it and then go with it and then learn from that. And then you'll end up somewhere and it will all be good. It'll all be right, because the alternative is to think there was a better path that you can never have gone down. Maybe my life would have been better if I had have been a rock star. Then I wouldn't have probably had my wife and my kids. So would I trade that in for the maybe rock star life that I have no experience of and don't know any of the good or the bad in it, and I'm assuming and hallucinating good in it? Well, firstly, no, I wouldn't. And secondly, I can never know. So why am I even thinking about it? Instead of focusing on what I do know, which is what's happening and unfolding in front of me, happening for me, that I can grab hold of and go down paths and sort stuff out and have amazing stories. Like a lot of the best stories come from fuck ups, come from things that didn't work out. You know, if you had a perfect to hear, you'd be super boring to talk to. It is the experience in those things. Like I love talking to people who are in business or who have kids or who have traveled Because those three things, especially people who've done all of them, those three things, among many, are great places for problems and stories. Like parents, I'll see something on Instagram and I'll send it to another parent and they're like, oh, dude, that's so true, right? Or we'll talk about something. I'm like, when your kid does something like this, and they're like, happens all the time. And we can chuckle about it because there's a shared experience in the suffering and in the pains and the, trials and tribulations, the learnings, right? The learnings, positive way of putting it. And then travel, same thing. Things always go wrong when you're traveling. And that's what makes it fun. There's also ups and downs, right? Business. If I'm talking to somebody who's got neither of those three, this is for me. It's harder to find the juice because there isn't the knowing of the struggle. You know what I mean? And I think that when we have little certainty in our ability to get through stuff, we start to try and grab certainty from our environment by pushing back any variety, any uncertainty of opportunity or taking action, because what if it doesn't work out? And so I feel like goal number one for anyone is to find it in them first and the things they can control that they can actually control. Not, oh my God, gas is up, Iran's going on. It's like, why are you thinking about Iran? Like, are you from Iran? Do you have family there? Like, do you know someone? But even if you do, it's like, how much can you influence that? You should probably live in your little life and sort your stuff out first, because you have no influence over that. And then become somebody that can have influence over that. But too many of us look at the external, and I think there's an avoidance. There's an avoidance of like, maybe I'm responsible for my life and I've got to start making some new decisions, make some new relationships, What's your take on that? You must see that a lot, people externalizing to avoid the things that maybe they can control themselves.
Yeah, well, it's might actually get very personal with it because I know people, like, without bringing up names, but I know people that were very close to me that are addicted to news cycles and social media, and it becomes part of their identity and what tribe they belong to. Either pro-Trump, against Trump, pro-Israel, anti-Israel, pro-aliens, anti-alien, whatever the hell you want to do, right? But really, I'm just doubling down on what you're saying is it's a complete distraction from what you can actually be doing. I'm not saying don't be informed. I don't want to start pontificating that the world, it has no meaning. But what you just said, what does it have to do with your life? It's the ultimate distraction. It's the ultimate distraction. And distracting you from what? From yourself. From yourself. I mean, think about it. So that same person, right? It's the same person that we're going to go back to in the original question 2 questions ago, which was, how do they find their purpose? Do you realize the amount of noise that they have to quiet down before they can even get to their purpose? They have to calm down the noise of Iran. They have to calm down the noise of what tribe they belong to. They have to quiet down the noise, all this noise before they can even get to themselves. That's where meditation comes in. Do you mean, like, how are you going to quiet that down? You literally adopted that as part of your identity and your personality, yet you're trying to find what your purpose is. But your mind's addicted to what you're thinking. You have to quiet all of that noise down. You and I were blessed enough to get close and be close and become with Tony and Tony's world. I think one of Tony's greatest gifts, right? One of his greatest visions that he had was, I'm going to turn this thing into a fucking rock concert. Because when you're in the moment, you're in the fucking energy in the moment of a rock concert, and you stop identifying with the parts of your personality. You come into just a lecture like his mentor, Jim Rohn, and you're coming in, and don't get me wrong, Jim Rohn was a master and taught Tony, but you're coming in with that identity. Tony, the second you come in, he's changing you. He's like, we're going to fucking rock the house, get you into this unbelievable state where you're not even thinking about Iran or how XRP and Bitcoin are doing. That's the last thing you're thinking about. You know what I mean? And you're hugging people from a different country, in a different world. And you're in a completely, why? Because you're getting back to your heart and not your head. You're in your heart.
And this doesn't mean that these things can't be things that are your purpose that you go after, but I think it's understanding the needs that you're trying to meet with them. Like, if this was something that actually matters to you and is a mission and contribution or a growth, then you would embrace it and you would be having the right conversations and you'd be doing the things that start to make some change. Like, I believe in political movements and I believe in, cultural movements and whatever, but the vast majority of people are making noises as an avoidance or as a way of meeting a need for themselves. I'm significant because I'm part of this. I'm getting certainty because I'm part of this. You're not actually part of change. You're a paid protester, or you're emotionally paid through what you consume and get reinforced in the comment section. So we're all like, it's like, am I being paid for this, figuratively or literally? Then I'm probably not part of a movement that's trying to make a change. I'm part of an agitation that's just a cultural thing. Versus, legitimately, how can I get involved? Like, I can kick up a fuss about these girls that are sex trafficked, and maybe something comes of my noise that I'm making. Probably not. Or I can go, okay, who is working with kids? Who has resources? Who can support this? And then I can look to be a part of and connect things and do stuff. And I think that's the difference. It's like, what needs of mine am I meeting with this? And that'll kind of tell you, is this something that I should continue with, or should I be quietening it down because I'm using it as, I'm using it for myself, not to actually make a difference. And we've always been like that. Social media has just made it easier to get access to a wider variety of things. But, people talk about people these days, they're on their phones, and then I just show them a picture of people on the train in the 20s or whatever, and they're all on the newspaper. Like, it's humans. We haven't changed. All that's changed is what we've the speed and ease and frequency that we can get access to certain things, and algorithms that show us the stuff we engage in rather than showing us the stuff. And therefore newspapers have and news shares have become about selling advertising space, not actually informing. Arguably, probably were never there to inform us to begin with, but it's just more apparent now that it is really just to sell the clicks. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Let's also build a bridge, right? Because you brought up something. Well, let's just build a bridge real fast, because we're not talking down on anybody, like together. Because when you also brought to you helping these young women, I need to compliment your purpose, bro, your mission, your vision. It's amazing. But rather than using something as Iran in politics, right? Because it's but even for certain people, let's just say sports. They know more about their sports team and sports record. Like, it's still distraction. Like, okay, are you involved with the Lakers? Is there anything that you're preoccupying your mind that's actually going to help LeBron and Luka next year? Like, or is this just it's basically you're inundated with something. It doesn't have to be politics or wars or crypto or the stock market or land and real. It's like whatever your just constant noises. Trust me, I have friends that can tell you more about the Yankees and the Red Sox and all that than they can themselves.
People get obsessed with. I see this. I saw this a lot in practice. Is like with health stuff. There's an aspect of like getting into being healthy and making choices, and then there's an obsession where you're going so far that it is your personality, and it's now maybe counterproductive to your well-being, obsessing over all sorts of stuff. And I think that's the key point there, isn't it? It's, am I being pulled by this thing because it's meeting my lower needs, instead of using it as fuel or power to reach my higher needs? The decision is, am I controlled by it or not? Do I have to look at it? And am I having to do this? Versus, because I can be obsessed over things in a positive way. I think a lot of positive comes from obsession. Like, if Elon Musk was not obsessed with humans must be a multiplanetary species, he wouldn't have 7 companies that are all actually working together to solve the problem, right? But then there is, am I doing it because I need to feel really certain of how much I know? I need to feel really significant in how much I know about the Red Sox or whatever, and it's impacting other aspects of my life. Because the same thing, like, you can love stuff and do things obsessively. I love skiing, and it consumes me when I'm in a mountain town. And then I just have to ask myself the consequences of what I'm doing. Am I happy with the outcomes, the rest of the results, or is my relationship being affected? Is my health being affected? Am I feeling stressed? I think those are the key things, because that's telling you whether or not the things that you're doing are leading towards your greater destiny. You're gonna wake up one day and be like, I made it and I'm happy. Or I made it and I'm like, shit, I know a lot about this, but I forgot my kids. I don't know what their favorite color is, or, whatever might matter. A concept recently that's been hitting me is, I'm living the life that, 34-year-old James created, 30-year-old James created. So I need to not think about what I'm doing. I need to think about what 40-year-old James is going to say. He's either going to be happy with me or he's going to be pissed. because I'm happy with some things that 30-year-old James did, and I'm pissed about others. James, why didn't you hit the gym since you're like 22 years old? You'd be jacked right now, right? That's a question. James, why didn't you do these things, right? You'd be here. And so when I had that, I was like, man, I need to be thinking about what, that version of me is going to experience, because I'm going to get there. I'm 35 now, halfway to 70. I'm going to be 40 one day, real quick, right? It's happened. I don't know about you, but like 15 to 20 took forever. 20 to 30 took a while. 30 to 35, done. I'm going to be 40 soon. Like, things are happening quick. And I'm going to experience that life. The question is, am I going to be happy with what 35-year-old James, 36-year-old, 37 did? Because I'm going to consequentially live it at 40. So you look at yourself and you say, will this result in? And is that version of me at that stage of my life going to be okay with it? Is he going to be pumped?
Yeah.
Or is he going to be pissed? Tony
That's
uses the
beautiful.
rocking chair test.
That's wisdom. And by the way, just from my experience, I'm not talking for the world, but from my experiences, it doesn't get any slower. Right after, it just keeps going faster. But kids, it just things. I can't believe I'm going to be 50 in a couple of months. Like, it just doesn't get any slower. So everything you're saying is on point.
You can tell me this is perfect. Side, you've got the silverback hair going on. You know what I mean? You're approaching 50, but in your mind, you are what, 30, 28? Because when I talk to some kids, I'm like, we're similar. And then I find out they're 24 or whatever. And I'm like, we're not similar. Like, because they start saying stuff and I'm like, we are not similar. But in my mind, I'm like, yo, what's up? And we're just talking because there's this energy. And then there's like the wisdom experience thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm old. Like, they think I'm uncle. You know what I mean? But in my mind, I'm like, I'm this young dude. My knee just hurts a little bit more now.
Yeah. Well, I'm exactly like that. I feel 28 to 30. My son just taught me what unk means. You know what I mean? He tells me I'm unk. But yeah, my mind, and I take great care of myself. So I feel young. My energy is young, but that's a blessing because I have the wisdom of a 50-year-old. Like you, mid 30s, you feel 24, 26, whatever you were saying, right? But you have the wisdom of this, James. And I think as long as you and I stay healthy and stay on mission and stay on purpose and enjoy the ride as much as possible, that just continues. I really think that just continues.
My commitment to myself is, this sounds super morbid, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to live at least another 10, 15, 20 years. Like, I'm committed to doing that. Surviving the things that, like, don't get hit by a bus, don't catch a disease that I could have prevented, don't get something that I could have done a test for. I've got money, I can go and get an MRI, find it early, etc. Because I'm hallucinating that my kids will be like, Dad, people used to get cancer. That's crazy. Dad, people used to have surgeries where they like open your chest up. That's crazy. Because we knew people, parents and parents, that, they had siblings or friends die of a fever or, an infection that we would just not even think about these days because of technological changes. And I think it's rapidly improving with the likes of AI and robotics and, nanotechnology, where we've got a lot of things right now that we're taking for granted that will not exist. Surgeons probably won't exist. It'll be AI robots that go in there or some kind of thing that you take. Yeah, caught some cancer again, go down the pharmacy and pop the anti-cancer thing. You know what I mean? Like, fevers and infections killed people, lots of them. And now our kids got a cold, who cares? Just rest, lemonade, whatever. And I think that the same will come for the things that we currently take serious. I don't know what the timeline is, but like, that's what I'm addicted to right now is focusing on what can I do to prevent that. I'd gone and done a Fountain Life and got all the scans, tests and things done. They found a lump in my lung. And for about 9 months, I thought I could have cancer. And we did multiple CTs and then showed that it wasn't growing and it was all good. But in that time, I said, what was the gift in this? The gift is, one, a reminder that how you feel is almost irrelevant to what's going on. You feel things later. Now, I used to tell patients that, but having that experience, I'm like, oh, well, that's real. Number two, the gift was suddenly what mattered showed up. Because when you're doing a lot of stuff and you're living your life and you're detached from the realities, I think that you can miss what actually matters. And then people realize it too late. Like, I had a friend die of cancer. Suddenly people were in her life. And it was this realization of like, gosh, we've missed out on her. Or, I saw, people in her life having big feelings. And I'm like, damn, like there's regret in that. And I think there'll always be regret, but I think there's a marrying of like, how do I experience more of the things that actually matter to me, living more now without forgetting that I am probably going to live a long time. Like, I don't believe in have nothing, live in a tent and just be in the moment. Because I do think that you're going to get to a point in your life when you're going to wish you had resources. You're going to wish that you had friends and lots of people around you, that you did things that were good for others. You built stuff. But at the same time, if you're obsessed with doing that, then you're going to miss out on the things in the now. And so that experience for me, I took from it. I was like, wow, there's things that really matter and there's things that do not matter. And so yeah, that's my thing at the moment is what do I got to do to not get hit by a bus?
James, it's a
Hit that
healthy
threshold,
place to be, because really, it's a healthy place to be, because you're saying it in a really, like you said, the theme of it, not get hit by a bus, is a funny theme, but then you got really deep right there about what's really important and what really matters, right? And that's like almost the essential theme of our whole conversation, which is like, you got to enjoy the journey and you got to enjoy the ride, because you got one shot at this thing. You got one shot, and love the people you love with all of your heart, because you feel like it's guaranteed that you're going to wake up tomorrow and everyone's going to be fine. And it's such nonsense. We're blessed that our kids are healthy. Emily, my girl and the love of my life, she has a 23-year-old fully, disabled child, and the way I see her walk through that, mothering that child with grace and dignity and love and joy, it makes me feel so shallow sometimes, because I just take for granted just how healthy my kids are. So, even though the heading of the topic was "Don't get hit by a bus," what you said underneath it was really the juice of life.
Well, for the clip, the metaphor, I tend to speak in things and people take them literally. The not get hit by a bus for me is you get hit by a bus, very small percentage, because it was just coincidental. I think that you get hit by a bus, metaphorically in this analogy, because someone's going to comment and be like, my uncle got hit by a bus, is because you were going too fast. You didn't slow down. You weren't present. You weren't conscious of what you were doing. You fell down the stairs, another analogy, because you were rushing. And so I want to take, for me, that's, sorry if somebody fell down the stairs and it wasn't rushing. Listen, I'm saying this for me to say, slow down, be present, things, take the time, because it's the things that you're not cognizant of that hurt you the most, because you're not being present, and you slip, this thing happens, you slip up, meaning you have a few too many drinks, you smoke some cigarettes, you're slipping up because you're stressed. And these are the things that are going to affect us the most in our lives, health-wise or relationships-wise. You slip up, you say the thing that you shouldn't have said because it came from emotion. You did the thing you shouldn't have done. You didn't do the thing you should have done because you were too caught up in things. So the thesis of don't get hit by a bus is be present, be in the moment, understand that everything has consequences and you've got to live with those consequences. It's just whether it's a positive consequence or one that's maybe less positive or less positively framed, because that is what matters. And you said something that I will disagree with, Adam. You said we only get one shot at this. And I think that we really have two lives. I heard this quote. It's like a man has two lives and the second one starts when he realizes he only has one. And I think that we do get a second shot, and that second shot is, fuck, I've only got one shot. And so suddenly we make different decisions. You know what I mean?
Corrected. No argument on that. I agree with everything you just said wholeheartedly, 1000%. You have two lives, right? The second life, when you wake up and realize you only have one life, is really, that's the game, man. Some people study, anything they're very fascinated by, entrepreneurial books, health and wellness. And my jam ever since I was a kid was always like religious and spiritual. I just love it. From the Bible to the Quran to you name it, I just studied. I still do. And it's like an obsession. But, in every single religious or spiritual story that you and I have ever looked up to, admired, been taught, there was always this human suffering in every single person, including Christ himself, but in every single, and then a moment they woke up, like an awakening. And it happens time and time and time again. And the reason I said that was it's doubling down on your theory of you have two lives.
Definitely. Well, Adam, this has been a ton of fun. I know that you've got some stuff to go off and do. I'd love to know a bit more about what you do so the audience can understand that, where they can go and check out more of your stuff. You got any resources they can take a look at, anything that people listening to this going, Adam's the man, I want to go check him out. What should they look at?
Yeah, well, look, one of the things that I've been blessed, we all have our own gifts and our own unique talents. And one of the things that I've been blessed with is when I'm working with groups or when I'm working with one-on-one with people, is that for some reason, I've been able to find the key to unlock people and liberate them from whatever is going on in their life, whatever pain it is, if trauma, alcoholism, and addiction. I've just been able to unlock them from that prison and liberate them into make life a spiritual camp. And that's really my mission and purpose, to change life into spiritual camp for people when they're unlocked from that prison that's within. It's from within. And recently did the hero's journey for Tony's company Mastermind, and I shot a course there for Tony and Dean, and starting a men's group probably in about 4 to 6 weeks. But my whole mission and my whole purpose is really just to unlock anybody from that prison that they're in. And they can find me on Instagram, on my website. I do have free, what do we want to call it? Courses and things such as like the wake up or the 7-day experience. It's all there for the taking. And if they're suffering and they're hurting, reach out, because I or my team will get back immediately.
Thank you, Adam. This has been good. I appreciate you. And I know that there's a ton of value, and we're going to extract all of that and for our protocols for people to be able to look at and use. Yeah. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you, James.
That's this week's Protocol 1. If you want to know exactly where you stand across all 6 vectors, take the free assessment at 6vectorassessment.com. It takes 5 minutes. The truth takes less. Don't settle.